Morning students, this is your subject physical education for class 12, chapter number 7, lecture number 4. Name of the chapter is physiology and injuries in sports, and here we are also going to discuss the questions from lecture number 3. So today we are going to continue with the same subtopic which we started yesterday, which was sports injury. But today we are going to start with bone and joint injuries. So fractures are the bone injuries especially. There are different types of fracture and they also require different types of management or treatment. The first is stress fracture. A stress fracture is a crack in a bone. So you can see here in the picture also that there is this red line which is the crack in the bone, that is your stress fracture. It can be common injury in high impact sports such as distance races or basketball, etc., where there is more and more stress and pressure on your bones especially. Such type of fractures can be very painful. However, these fractures usually heal themselves if proper rest is taken for appropriate duration, which may be up to 2 months. Usually these fracture occurs in leg bones. So now the management of stress fracture. First of all, elevate the extremity, the limb which is injured, and rest while the bone heals itself. Apply ice to the affected area for 24 to 48 hours. Still, if there is pain, then you can take or you can give painkillers to the person who is injured. If there is any need of immobilization of the affected area, use a splint. So splint is a kind of a strap which is used so that your particular area which is injured can be immobilized and kept for rest. When swelling is reduced, start putting partial weight on the affected area. So if you see that the swelling is less, that means the injury is healing or the bone is actually healing. So you can start putting partial weight on your legs if the affected area is legs. Crutches or walking sticks may be used in the beginning. After 2 weeks, start putting normal weight. For 6 to 8 weeks, avoid the activity that caused stress fracture. Then start doing the activity slowly. Next is your green stick fracture. A green stick fracture is that fracture when a bone bends and cracks instead of breaking completely into separate pieces. So here you can see it from the image which is given there also, that bone is slightly bent and then there are cracks in the bone. So this is your green stick fracture. This type of fracture usually occurs in children because their bones are soft and more flexible than adults. So it usually children are more prone to these kind of fracture because their bones are comparatively soft and more flexible. So if any kind of activity which is not in their own capacity is performed by them, then they might have green stick fracture very easily. Now the management of green stick fracture. Most of these fractures involve arm and legs which require immobilization to make the bone grow back together in proper or natural position. So there is this immobilization which is given, that means the rest is provided to that infected or to that particular injured part of the body. A removable splint is most recommended one among children. The swelling that occurred on the site of the fracture may be reduced with anti-inflammatory drugs. So you can take the medicine so that the swelling can be reduced. Pain can be relieved by taking painkillers. Generally, it takes 8 weeks, that means about 2 months, for complete bone healing. High impact activities should be avoided in the beginning. So our next one is comminuted fracture. When a bone is broken into 2 or more than 2 pieces, it is called comminuted fracture. As you can see it from the image which is given there also, there are more than 2 pieces in the bone or of the bone. Such type of fracture is possible in cycle race or motorcycle race Why? Because in these kind of event there is a lot of speed in which an individual is performing, or if there is any kind of disturbance or any kind of imbalance which happens while performing in such great speed, then there might be a very big accidents, and because of those accidents an individual can have such severe fractures. Now the management as well as the treatment of comminuted fracture is not an easy job because of many fragmented pieces of bones. Immobilization above and below the fracture area should be maintained with the help of plasters or splints. For pain management, especially in arm fracture, painkillers should be given to the affected sportsperson. Infections should be avoided by giving antibiotics, as the bone is like uh, broken into pieces. It might be like stuck into some muscle or somewhere, so it might also cause infection. That is why antibiotics should be given. It may take for more than few months to restore to its normal condition. After that, physical therapy should be used for treating it completely. The next one is our transverse fracture. So it is a break in one of the bone of the spine or a part of it. It is shaped like a wing. Most probably these injuries occur in the thoracic spine, the upper and the middle parts of the vertebra and lumbar region, the low back area. So in this it looks like a wing. The, the break in the bone looks like a wing. Now the management of transverse fracture. If the injury is limited to a break of a transverse process with no other injury, hospital care is not necessary. Medication for pain can be given to the person who is injured. Limit the various activities, so you don't have to move or perform various activities. In intricate or multiple fracture to the backbone or spine, the spinal cord might be damaged because of it, and because of this reason operation might be required. There can be pain and stiffness in the back for some weeks after transverse fracture. Complete rest should be given to the sports person. After that, the affected person should not join any activity. Neck and back braces may also be helpful in reducing pain and increasing mobility, because they will provide a good support and balance to that particular area. Exercise should be done to improve motion and to strengthen back. Next is our oblique bone fracture. An oblique bone fracture occurs when the bone is broken diagonally. Here you can see in the picture which is given there also that there is a diagonal cut or break in the bone, which is known as your oblique bone fracture. Mostly these fracture occurs in the humerus of femur bone. These are your long bones of the body. One is in your leg, another one is in your hand. So oblique fracture normally occurs in your humerus and femur bones, and there is this oblique or diagonally the bone is broken. Now the management of oblique bone fracture. The method of treatment of oblique bone fracture usually depends on the amount of damage of the bone. If the damage is minimum, a plaster cast may be used to treat the fracture. However, in most of the oblique fractures, surgical treatment is required. If the damage is extensive, metal rods and screw are used to hold the bone in place. Impacted fracture. When the end of the fractured bone enters into other bone, it is called impacted fracture. Management. If the damage is too severe, a splint or sling may be sufficient to hold the fractured bone in place so it can heal correctly. If an impacted fracture only involves a few bone fragments and the damage is not too significant, immobilization may be enough to treat it. The movement of the affected part should be minimized for quite some time even after a splint is removed. These fractures usually take more time to heal. In severe cases, surgery is required. So if the damage is not too severe and it can be treated without operation or any surgery, then splint or sling is sufficient to hold that particular injured part of the body until and unless it is healed correctly. If an impact fracture involves few bones fragment and a damage is not too significant, immobilization may be more than enough to treat it. The movement of the affected part should be minimized. So we have to take care of the movement of that infected part. But if the particular injured part taking a lot of time in getting to heal, then surgery can be required. So next we are going to start with the dislocation, which are our joint injuries. The first is your dislocation of lower jaw. Generally it occurs when the chin strikes to any other object, so the lower jaw actually gets dislocated from the upper jaw. The joint actually cracks or it moves or displaces from that particular area. It may also occur if mouth is opened excessively. Next is dislocation of shoulder joint. Dislocation of shoulder joint may occur due to sudden jerk or a fall on hard surface. Because if there is a jerk, you might be performing any of the throwing event, or even you might be performing smash in tennis or badminton or in any of the sports in which there is more and more use of your shoulders strength and the shoulders. Next, if you have like suddenly fallen on the hard surface, because we put more of the stress on our hands, then it might happen that the shoulder get dislocated. Next is your dislocation of hip joint. By putting maximum strength spontaneously may cause dislocation of the hip joint. The end of the femur is displaced from the socket. So in the last hip joint, you can see it from the image also that this blue part, that is the end of the femur, which is displaced from the socket in which it was attached earlier. Now the management of dislocation. So first, call medical help immediately. So what you have to do is you have to call for the medical help as soon as possible. Second, don't try to move the joint or to place it back in the socket. So you don't have to try it on your own, because even if you know first aid or even if you know some of the medical things, but still we normally don't understand the exact position, and sometimes because of trying of putting the joint back to its place or back to the socket might also increase the severity of the injury. Next, keep eyes on the spot of dislocation to control swelling. Spling or splint the affected joint into its fixed position. Now we are going to start the last subtopic of the chapter, which is first aid, aims and its objectives. So the first aid is the first help which is given to the wounded or accidental victim before the arrival of the doctor. So it is the very first treatment or the very first aid which is provided to someone who is injured before the arrival of any of the medical help. Now the aims and objectives of first aid. The main aim of first aid is to try to save the precious life of the wounded person or the victim. So why are we exactly providing first aid? So that an individual's life can be saved. First aid normally is given when an injured individual is there who might be bleeding, who might be having a fracture, who might be having any kind of abrasion, contusion. It can be anything, and the injury might be life risking also. So we just treat it as soon as possible so that we can save somebody's life. Objectives. The first is to preserve life. To preserve or to save the life of the victim or wounded person is the significant objective of first aid. However, there are limitations of first aid, but even then every possible effort is made to save the life of a wounded person or victim with the help of first aid. So the very significant or very important objective of first aid is to save or to preserve somebody's life who has got injured. Though we know the limitations are there, we are not doctors, or an individual who is giving the first aid is not a doctor, but yes, still something can be done so that somebody's life can be saved. Next point is to elevate pain and suffering. The second important objective of first aid is to elevate pain and suffering of the victim or wounded person. Pain is natural in any type of accident. Pain becomes unbearable in cases of fracture or dislocation of joint during accident. So it is a major objective to reduce such unbearable pain. So if we provide first aid to someone, we can actually try and reduce the pain he or she might be feeling because of some accident or because of the injury which has happened. If there is fracture or if there is dislocation, then there is this unbearable pain from which we can save them. Next is to prevent the condition from worsening. Till the wounded person or victim does not get the help of a doctor, to prevent the condition from worsening becomes a major objective of first aid. According to this objective, victim's condition should not be worsened. Generally, first aid is provided. The wounded or victim's condition does not worsen while being taken to the doctor for treatment. So while we are taking an injured person to the doctor, or if we are waiting for the doctor to come to that particular place where an individual is injured, in this time gap we need to give or we need to provide some first aid to the individual, so that because of the time gap or because of the duration, the injury might get worsened as the time passes by. So first aid is very important to be provided to that particular individual. Fourth, to promote recovery. Main objective of first aid is to start the process of recovery as early as possible. Sometimes the treatment of injury is also included in this objective. That means as soon as we start treating an individual's injury, that means at earliest the recovery will also start. If we will take time in treating somebody's injury, then obviously the recovery will also be late and it will slow down because the severity might increase. Last point is to procure early medical aid. To procure early medical aid is one of the most important objectives of first aid. In fact, there may be certain situations where there is a dire need of medical assistance. However, the first aider should pay attention to provide first aid to the victim or wounded person, but efforts should also be made to seek medical aid as early as possible. So it is very important to call for the medical aid as soon as possible, to call for a doctor. So first aider should keep in mind that while providing first aid or treating someone with injury, he or she should also call for immediate medical help from the hospital or to the doctor. Now the homework for this lecture. The question number 1 is, what is stress fracture? Question number 2, explain the management of comminuted fracture. Question number 3, explain the types of joint injuries. Question number 4, explain the aim and objectives of first aid. Now the answers of questions from lecture number 3. Question number 1 was, what do you understand by contusion? So answer is, contusion is a muscle injury. A direct hit with or without any sports equipment can be the main cause of contusion. Question number 2 was, write the preventive measures of abrasion. Answer, preventive measures are, players should undergo proper warm-up before training and competition. Players should perform proper conditioning during their preparatory phase. Third, sports equipment should be of good quality. Fourth, Good officiating quality of official is essential during practice and competition. 5. Players should be careful and alert during practice and competition. Question number 3 was, what is the difference between sprain and strain? Answer. The difference between sprain and strain is that sprain is a ligament injury and strain is a muscle injury. Question number 4. Explain physiological changes due to aging. So the physiological changes due to aging are change in muscle size and strength. When an individual gets older, there is a decline in muscle size. There is a decrease in muscle mass and increase in all over body fat. Due to decrease in muscle size, the strength of our muscle also decreases. The decrease in strength gradually occurs during the age of 35 to 45 years. However, even at the age of 60, the decrease in strength does not appear to exceed 20% of an individual's maximum strength. Changes in metabolism and body composition. With advancement of age, our body needs less energy and metabolism slows down. Consequently, there is an increase in the accumulation of body fat and therefore the lean body weight decreases. Metabolic rate decreases gradually with the increasing age. It also results in more accumulation of body fat. Third one is changes in bone density. With the advancement of age, the bone density decreases. It means that the elderly people, especially those over 40 years of age, are more prone to bone injury than young people. In fact, it is due to decrease in various minerals such as calcium, phosphorus found in bones. Bones become less dense and more porous. The decreasing process of these minerals become in the early 40s. Less bone density can result in osteoporosis and reduction of weight bearing capacity, which may lead to fracture. There can be reduction in height due to thinning of vertebra. So this is the end of the lecture. Thank you.